They once ruled the silver screen, the darlings of Hollywood's golden age. But time, fame, and fate have a way of humbling even the brightest stars. Behind the flawless smiles and dazzling premieres were real people battling aging, addiction, heartbreak, and the cruel pressure of an industry that worships youth. Today, we look back at 11 Golden Age Hollywood stars who aged terribly and the heartbreaking reasons why. 1. Judy Garland, the girl who never escaped Oz. She sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow and captured the heart of a generation. But for Judy Garland, the yellow brick road ended in tragedy. As a teenager, MGM executives fed her pills, uppers to keep her awake and downers to help her sleep. By her 20s, she was exhausted, overworked, and addicted. Years of studio control left deep scars. Her weight was monitored daily, her meals restricted, and her self-esteem crushed by cruel comments. By the 1960s, the once glowing Dorothy had aged well beyond her years. Alcohol and prescription drugs ravaged her skin and spirit. At 47, she died alone in a London bathroom, the sparkle in her eyes long dimmed. Her story remains one of Hollywood's cruelest cautionary tales, proof that the industry's golden sheen often hides unimaginable pain. 2. Mickey Rooney, from America's Kid to Hollywood's Punchline. Mickey Rooney was once the biggest star in the world, the all-American boy who sang, danced, and charmed his way into everyone's heart. But stardom at 19 doesn't guarantee happiness at 90. Rooney's career stretched over 9 decades, but his personal life was chaos. 8 marriages, endless divorces, and financial ruin turned him into a tabloid caricature. By the 1980s, the boyish grin had faded into bitterness and regret. He fought legal battles against his own family, claiming elder abuse and financial exploitation. In his final years, Rooney looked decades older than his age, not from time alone, but from a lifetime of emotional scars and disappointment. When he passed away at 93, he left behind a bittersweet legacy, a legend of talent overshadowed by tragedy. 3. Marlon Brando, the face that time forgot. At his peak, Marlon Brando was pure, cinematic electricity, a smoldering force of nature who redefined acting. But by the time he appeared in his later films, fans could barely recognize him. In his youth, he was all jawline and rebellion, the ultimate bad boy. Yet fame and isolation took their toll. Brando withdrew from the spotlight, ballooned in weight, and became a recluse. He was tormented by family tragedies, his son imprisoned for murder, his daughter lost to suicide. By the end, Brando's once godlike looks were gone, replaced by the weariness of a man who had seen too much and trusted too little. Still, even in his decline, his voice carried authority. His deterioration shocked Hollywood, but his legacy remained untouchable. 4. Elizabeth Taylor, The Price of Beauty. Elizabeth Taylor's violet eyes made her a legend before she turned 20. But few stars endured as much physical pain or media obsession as she did. Taylor battled lifelong health issues, broken backs, weight fluctuations, and more than 30 surgeries. Her beauty became her burden, constantly dissected by tabloids. Alcohol, heartbreak, and illness accelerated her aging. By her 60s, she looked decades older, often confined to wheelchairs and plagued by frailty. Yet even then she wore her diamonds proudly and joked, "I may not look good, but I'll always sparkle." Her beauty faded, but her strength became her new crown. 5. Montgomery Clift, Hollywood's broken angel. Montgomery Clift had the face of an angel and the talent to match. Alongside James Dean and Brando, he helped usher in a new kind of vulnerable masculinity in film. But one night in 1956 changed everything. After leaving a dinner party at Elizabeth Taylor's house, Clift crashed his car into a telephone pole. His face was shattered, nose broken, jaw destroyed, teeth knocked out. Despite reconstructive surgery, he never looked the same. The beautiful boy Hollywood adored became a ghost of himself. Addicted to painkillers and alcohol, he withdrew from public life. He died at just 45, his body and face ravaged, a haunting example of how one accident can end a golden career. 6. Joan Crawford, When Glamour Turns to Shadows. Few stars embodied Hollywood's golden age like Joan Crawford. The crisp diction, the fierce eyes, the immaculate poise, she was stardom. But behind the perfection was deep insecurity. As younger actresses took the spotlight, Crawford's fear of aging became an obsession. She spent hours each day on makeup and lighting, desperate to maintain her youth. When the roles stopped coming, she retreated from Hollywood altogether. By her final years, she lived in near isolation, drinking heavily and avoiding cameras. The woman who once ruled the screen was now a recluse, terrified of being seen as old. After her death, her daughter's infamous memoir, Mommy Dearest Forever, altered her legacy, turning her into a tragic, controversial figure rather than the glamorous icon she had been. 7. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckler who drank himself away. At the height of his fame, Errol Flynn was every man's idol and every woman's fantasy, dashing, fearless, and impossibly handsome. But behind the sword fights and smirks lay a man consumed by excess. Flynn lived fast, drank harder, and loved recklessly. By his 40s, his once sculpted face was bloated, his charm replaced by cynicism. His lifestyle, endless parties, alcohol, and scandals, aged him brutally. When he died at just 50, doctors said his body was that of an 80-year-old. The ultimate symbol of youthful adventure had been destroyed by the very life he chased. His downfall remains one of Hollywood's most shocking transformations, a warning that even legends can burn out before their time. 8. Bette Davis, the queen who refused to fade gracefully. Bette Davis didn't go quietly into that good night. She was bold, sharp-tongued, and fiercely proud, a true survivor in an industry that discards its women. But time and illness eventually caught up with her. After a stroke and breast cancer, Davis became painfully thin, her sharp features turning skeletal. Yet, even then, she worked, defiantly facing cameras that no longer adored her. When asked about her aging, she famously said, "Old age ain't no place for sissies." It was brutal honesty from a woman who had spent her life fighting for respect. She aged terribly by Hollywood's shallow standards, but beautifully by human ones. 9. Jean Tierney, the tragedy behind the beauty. Jean Tierney was one of the most stunning women of the 1940s, cool, elegant, and mysterious. But her life was marked by unbearable tragedy. During her pregnancy, she contracted rubella, which left her daughter severely disabled. The guilt and heartbreak led to years of mental illness and hospitalizations. Electroshock therapy left her disoriented, and the glamorous sheen of her youth vanished. When she appeared in public years later, fans were shocked by her transformation, the fragile, hollow look of a woman who had survived more than most could bear. Her beauty faded early, but her courage shone through till the end. 10. Orson Welles, the genius who couldn't outrun his appetite. Orson Welles was a prodigy, the mastermind behind Citizen Kane and one of the most brilliant voices of cinema. But genius often comes at a cost. Welles's endless battles with studios' financial ruin and a lifelong love of food and drink transformed him from a striking young innovator into an unrecognizable giant. His weight ballooned, his health collapsed, and his career drifted. By the end, he was voicing commercials and narrations to pay the bills, a heartbreaking come-down for a man who once reinvented film itself. When asked about his decline, he shrugged. "My problem isn't that I think too big. It's that others think too small." Even in decay, his pride burned bright. 11. Gloria Swanson, the star who couldn't leave the spotlight. Gloria Swanson was the silent film era. Her beauty and flamboyance defined the 1920s, until sound changed everything. Though she reinvented herself brilliantly in Sunset Boulevard as the delusional Norma Desmond, life began to imitate art. Swanson aged into the very caricature she once portrayed, eccentric, overly made up, living in nostalgia for a world that no longer existed. By her later years, she was almost unrecognizable beneath layers of makeup and old Hollywood affectation. But perhaps that's how she wanted it, forever performing, even when the lights had long gone out. Her story closed the curtain on an era when beauty was everything, and time, the cruelest critic of all. Fame is fleeting. The camera, once a friend, becomes a ruthless witness. In the golden age of Hollywood, youth and beauty were the currency of success, and when that currency ran out, many stars were left bankrupt, both emotionally and physically. Judy Garland was crushed by the same studio system that made her famous. Montgomery Clift was destroyed by tragedy. Errol Flynn died trying to live his own myth. And Bette Davis, the last warrior standing, taught us that growing old is not for the faint of heart. But not all of them lost their dignity. Some aged with grace, others with grit, and all of them left behind stories that still fascinate us today. In the end, time doesn't play favorites. It comes for the beautiful, the talented, the powerful, everyone. But what remains is the work they left behind, the light they cast, and the lessons their faces still teach us. Because in Hollywood, beauty fades, but legacy never does.